Hello and welcome to Candle Red, which is our seventh book, as in Vib Gyor. And what we do is we quickly talk about the skill tags here. It's responsible consumption, SDG goal number 12, and goal number 13, climate action. And we will do a problem solving in terms of skills. So these are some really interesting conversation. The idea about Sherwood Forest. Sherwood is a mythical forest, a forest that is actually created, which is actually a unique place, by the way. But in the Sherwood Forest, there is a local folk hero. People do not know if he was real or not. It's just like Sherlock Holmes or a lot of other characters like Robin Hood. Robin Hood is famous, and we all know the story, especially the earlier ones who grew up on Robin Hood, that he would take from the rich and give to the poor. Robin Hood was set during the time of King Richard the Lionheart. And the very interesting story is the sheriff of Nottingham, who was an evil person. You have to build it a story. Now, when you talk to kids in the first introductory 10 minutes, I always say, tell them what is an equivalent of Sherwood in Indian forest. When for some people, it is the sandalwood forest that Veerappan ruled by. Well, Veerappan was supposed to be called the timber smuggler or the red teak wood. A lot of movies is made, especially the one called Pushpa. But was he really good? Or Daku Man Singh, when you take from the rich and give to the poor, is it really a nice thing to do? A real alternative, a real hero would be, Shahid Bhagat Singh, where he fought with the Britishers and then he would help the Indian freedom movement. So a lot of conversation can happen, and then you can go back to Sherwood Forest and say, why is it so unique? How is the characters being set up in this place? There is a protagonist, there is a hero, there is Robin Hood, but there has to be somebody evil. So there is the sheriff of Nottingham, and then there is somebody who is, a neutral person like King Richard the Lionheart, who's himself very good. Imagine if there was a meeting with Robin Hood and King Richard, what would the conversation be like? So you can take them. There's so many forests and stories in and around India. You can use that. You can do a character sketch of Robin Hood. You can find out some of the pictures. How does Robin Hood look like? And then you can also go back and ask about Robin Hood's features, which is my 3.1. Well, when we talk about Robin Hood, we say, is Robin Hood a hero or a villain? The reason this is interesting is, well, you see, he's a legendary figure. He is someone who is maybe fictitious. We do not know. So how about asking your students how many fictitious heroes they know? For example, Phantom, the ghost who walks. Very today, all Marvel and DC world is filled with fictitious heroes. Superman being the oldest, and Spider-Man being the most popular. But there are so many Aquaman and Iron Man and Hawkeye. How many of them actually use a bow and an arrow, which is what the skill Robin Hood used to have? Maybe you can have a bow and an arrow in the in the class and find a bull's eye. Maybe bullseye may not be always hitting it. If you give a right answer, there is a bullseye out there. Are rich people bad? A very, very interesting conversation I always have. There is this beautiful story around the fact that Big Bad Wolf, anybody who's powerful, anybody who's rich, we by nature consider them bad. If an Audi hits a scooter, we by default consider that Audi or the car would be bad because the scooter would always be right. Maybe that's not true. Yes, of course, there are many incidents of road rage and driving under alcohol, but the perception that bad just is to be something powerful is not wrong. How people always look at the rich industrialists, the rich businessmen, Ambanis are always bad. Maybe they do a lot of charity, maybe they do a lot of good work. So what are you talking about? A lot of conversations can have been talk about here. Of course, you do now. You give a modern makeover to Robin Hood on a spin-off character. I will say, what if Robin Hood did not have a bow and an arrow? How would he still go about helping people? Maybe I don't want violence. How can he do it without violence? Maybe find about Anna Hazare, the social activist from India, or Greta Thunberg, the young girl who fought the climate action, because that's a skill tag for today's session. So this is where you can also include the last part is you can ask them to draw how would Robin Hood look like. You get many features. Why does we think of Robin Hood only as a young man and not an old man? There is someone called Omar Mukhtar in Morocco, where he fought the Britishers when they came. He's a school teacher. How powerful school teachers are. So a lot of conversation can have around this theme. My second one is about the oak tree itself. This is the tree where the Sherwood forest is mostly, made up of. It's a very powerful European, timber, and a lot of things are made out of oak. It is said that almost 600 species of oak are available, including the red oak and the white oak. And there's so many creative things you can make from. Well, honestly, there's some are really funny ones. So the oak tree is giant tree, it's beautiful, and I'll give you three spin-off projects on this. Number one, what about the Indian version of an oak tree? So, well, it's a grand old banyan tree. How about mangroves, maybe? But banyan in Calcutta, there is an entire, sanctuary where the banyan roots are all there and they're connected, completely connected to one another. Find about this banyan tree, which is India's national tree, by the way. My second spin-off project is how many countries do you find where they're special trees for the country? Maybe some countries have trees on their flag. Go ahead, check the flag of Lebanon. There's a cedar tree. What about national trees of United States or Australia? A coconut tree is very popular, maybe in the desert growing region. So that's the second project, is find about trees that are landmark for certain countries. And finally, what we have here on the next page, page 15, is what are the things you can make from a tree. Is this Yamaha drums? Wow, one of the best drums in the world are made with oak tree, and this is how a special brand of oak comes in. So this is something that you can think of. Well, also very very interesting is coffins. So caskets and coffins are very important, especially in the culture in the Western culture, where there is an interesting conversation that what kind of tough coffins are there, and one of the tough wood used is oak tree. Well, what about Malaysian timber? There's an entire region there. What are the other things you can see? Table furniture, wardrobes, so many areas. Last spin-off on the coffin, which is very interesting in Nigeria. Mostly it's a Christian community where they have coffins specially made like the person's character. So there are coffins which looks like books, coffins which look like gun, coffin if you're a police officer. Coffin could be multiple things. Find out five new ideas what the coffin could look like and the profession. How about if there was a baker and what his coffin would look like? Maybe a pastry. And the last part is, the last part is we spoke about the banyan tree, the oak for, and so now we go to 3.3. We move from something very, very, interesting geographically, something very light. It's called the talking trees. The concept of ocular trees. What is ocular tree? Ocular trees are, how the word oracle comes from. Oracle is a word that you use when somebody can speak, somebody is divine, right? So ocular trees are the ability to speak. Well, this is not a new thing. These are called wisdom trees in mythologies and stories. How about wisdom trees in a lot of places? You can find wisdom tree in Ramayana. We can find wisdom tree in Lord of the Rings. And how about finding five such wisdom trees, trees which spoke, or trees which are magnificent? Siddhartha became Gautama Buddha under a Lumbini tree. So this is very, very interesting. Now we've got some creative tags from the trees. If trees could speak, what would the words be? So find out the three that you love the most, and then you have to make five of your own. And remember, you are all going to behave like Groot. Yes, the famous character from Guardians of the Galaxy. And if you are a Groot, the only dialogue Groot has is "I am a Groot." Maybe you can have a fun thing. The next 10 minutes or the next two classes, the only thing you can speak in your class is "I am Groot." I know it'll be very irritating, but it'll also be very fun. Trust me, if the teacher understands the lighter side of it, there will be a lot of learning happening. So my favorite three are, here, have some oxygen. I think it's so scientifically true and it's so wonderful. And then, no, don't kill me. I'm too young to die. I mean, trees live up to hundreds and 200 years. So falling a tree isn't going to help. And finally, yeah, stop climbing on me. I'm warning you. Why don't you find the story of a tree called the giving tree? There's a lovely tree called the giving tree. And this is a tree that loves the little boy, keeps giving to the little boy. And maybe this would be an interesting conversation for all your friends and you all. So go ahead, find out and let us know what did you enjoy the most here. All the best. Good luck.